Hey everyone, welcome to the show. Oh my God, Christmas is literally right around the corner. Today's the 23rd. God, because tomorrow's Christmas Eve. I got a special thing for you tomorrow. Anyway, my name is Charlotte, and I'll be your host for the next hour or so. We've got a great guest tonight, but I am also the owner of the California Haunts Paranormal Investigation Team based out of Sacramento, California. You can find us at www.californiahaunts.org, and our radio website for California Haunts Radio is www.californiahaunts.com. I get confused with that sometimes. Old age. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for coming. And Susan Miller is with us tonight because, astrology is a cool thing. Also, with the upcoming year, we got to see what's going on. We got COVID still kind of hanging around and that kind of thing. And it'd be kind of cool to see what's happening in our future. So I'm going to go ahead and bring Susan on in, and you can meet her. She's a great lady. I just talked to her for a few minutes. So here we go. Gotta love it. Okay. Okay.
I keep getting dialogue boxes that I can't read with the light.
We're on Zoom this time, folks. So, Susan, tell me about yourself.
Oh, about me. Well, I have a website called Astrology Zone, Z-O-N-E, Astrology Zone. And I started it on December 14th, 1995. And it's been growing ever since. I'm excited to have it. I also have apps that go with it, one for Google, one for Apple App Store, and it's called Daily Horoscope Astrology Zone by Susan Miller. But it's just easier if you search Susan Miller. And everyone listening can get the free version today, so why not?
Sure.
And the monthly is what put me on the map. I have dailies, but on both versions, the premium version where you pay $5 a month and the free version, you still get my monthly, where I write 40,000 words a month. Wow. So, but it's a labor of love. I also write for 5 international fashion magazines. I've just I've worked with, of course, in America with Elle and InStyle. I was with InStyle 6 years, and they came back to me and said, let's do a project. And let's do the year ahead, and we'll put it in our beauty boxes, and you can help curate them. We do fire, air, earth, and water signs. But the book that I wrote, the manuscript, is in all of them, all 12 signs. And I really get interesting assignments. So it's fun. Louis Vuitton came to me from Paris.
Whoa.
That was like a meteorite coming through my window. They wanted me to help celebrate Louis Vuitton's 200th birthday. And there wasn't a lot of information about him, but they did know his birthday and time of birth. So I did his chart, and I was doing it for different members of the press. And the more I did it, it was like the flower opening, and I really felt I got to know Mr. Vuitton and love him.
That's awesome.
He had so many lovely qualities. Giving, he has Cancer rising, and he's a Leo. So he had all the brilliance of creativity, but all the heart of Cancer. So this has been a good year, even though there was some heartbreak this year. Mm-hmm. My former husband died of Parkinson's. And it was sudden, and it's my children's father. And even though we were divorced, he lived 2 blocks away. He was always here, and we were all together all the time. We were friendly, and it was a tough thing, to go through.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely.
But everybody has something, life tumbles toward you. You get the good and the bad all mixed together in the cake batter, and you have to keep your spirit, I think.
I think so too. Well, I admire you writing all that, because as a freelance writer out here on the West Coast, it's getting harder and harder to get work because certain laws are in effect, and it makes it difficult. So I mean, that's my complaint for the day, folks. But yeah, so it's admirable that you have all that work coming in, because I know what it's like to be a freelance writer, and that's what makes it fun, is because you get different types of articles to write.
Well, I work a lot with China. It was funny. I lost my job on Vogue China when they changed editors.
Right.
But then the eclipse we just had in December, at the beginning of the month, December 4th, I got it back. The new editor asked me, come back, we miss you. That was such a surprise. Usually that doesn't happen. So, not all eclipses are bad, but you always should watch eclipses. Some of them are really good and exciting and bring events you didn't expect. And I like working with foreign countries because they have a different perspective and a different creativity, and it broadens you. So I'm lucky, very lucky to work.
What got you into astrology?
I have a birth defect that was very rare in my left leg, and I would get attacks, and they would be excruciating, and nobody knew what was going on. And a doctor said, I don't know, I think she's making it up. And my mother knew. When I got an attack, I'd be in bed for 6 to 8 weeks, and I wouldn't move an inch in the bed. We'd put a pillow under the knee, and she would have to change the sheets with me in the bed. Now, when a child is sick, if they're making it up, they get their crayons, they get their dolls, they get their books. I didn't move. My mother knew I wasn't making it up. Finally, when I was 14, I got the biggest attack, and they brought me to the hospital. My father had been doing research on doctors. I had the chief of staff, a hospital for joint diseases, part of NYU Langone, which is very respected here in New York. And when they got in, they couldn't get out. I was bleeding internally. And I was in the hospital 11 years. No, it wasn't 11 months. Sorry, it felt like 11 years. It was only 11 months. And then when I was sent home, I had to come back to the hospital as an outpatient because they had tourniqueted my leg so tightly. They were trying to keep the leg, which they were able to do, and they were trying to keep me alive because I was, going to bleed to death. I've had 40 blood transfusions in my lifetime. Not all that night. That period was only 8 transfusions, but it was a long process, and I didn't go to high school. I went to homeschool because the Board of Education works with kids like this. And so they sent a teacher to the house for 2 hours a week. So I took my Regents exams, my PSATs, my SATs. When this was all over, I wanted to know if I'd walk and look like everybody else. Everybody wants to look like everybody else, walk normally without a brace. I had a big metal brace to my hip and 2 crutches, a great big scar. And yeah, it did all work out. But I begged my mother, who was an astrologer, but never told anyone. She was a real scholar. She had done a correspondence class with a company in California for 8 years with her sister. They both did it together. And, they lived far apart, so they had fun doing their homework together on the phone. But she wouldn't teach me. She kept saying, no, this is not a parlor game. This is not a casual discipline. You must study 12 years. You're only 14 years old, and you don't know what 12 years is. And then you'll start reading for your friends. You won't know what you're doing. You'll say the wrong thing. I said, wait a minute. I'm not in school, though I don't have any friends. I was the kind of kid that it was okay. I loved to read. I loved to make things. I still do. And, I was always busy in my own little world. So I didn't miss not having friends. But I said, Mama, I'm not going to, who am I going to read to? Nobody comes. I'm not in school for the whole time was 3 years being out of school. So she finally relented. And I did study for 12 years. I did what she said. Little mom, I call her, so close to her, and the most optimistic person on the planet. And I'm like her. When you go to see a patient in a hospital, first of all, don't wear black. or brown, wear something cheerful like she did. And she would never say, how's the pain today? She would never say that. She'd say, Susie, when we break you out of jail, which is the hospital,
Right.
you'll have so many pretty dresses and you'll have shoes and you'll say, which shoes will I wear today? And for the first time in your life, you'll be able to travel. You'll be able to go anywhere in the world that you want to go. And you won't have to worry that you're going to get an attack and not be home. And it was just such a beautiful picture. And I mean, there were, right after the operation, I said, Mama, I'm on a raft in high seas and it's night and I don't know where land is. It's scary right now. And she said, I know, but we're going to bring you, we're going to show you where land is. You're going to get there and you're going to learn how to walk again. It's all going to work out. And what I am doing on my website, hopefully, is what my mother did for me. I just want to show people how astrology can wedge open the door when you have a problem that you're wrestling with. There's always something good going on in the chart, and locate it and then wedge that part open so you get more of that. And that's the way you, I call it getting out of the briar patch. So you can, enjoy life more. But, astrology isn't only for problem solving, it's for also knowing where your opportunities are and the rewarding part, because you may be so focused over here that there are glittering things going on over here that you're not even noticing because you're not looking. And it's my job to show you those too. Well, I like 2022 very much.
All right. Well, I want to find out.
It's going to be a better year.
Well, let's find out why. That this is, I wanted to ask you that today, because, with COVID and everything keeps resurfacing and all this is going on. What is 2022 going to be like for everybody?
Well, I knew we would have the virus until March 7th, 2023, because Saturn's in Aquarius, and Aquarius is a respiratory sign. But Pluto is coming into Aquarius too. It's really up to us. I mean, not enough people are getting vaccinated. And so we can't get enough immunity in the population. But unfortunately, those that are not vaccinated, the virus, which is like a snake looking for someone to bite, it's finding it easier to find the people it wants to infect. It's going after those that are unvaccinated. And, I have had every shot that they had to give. I've had my booster because I just can't afford to be sick.
Right.
I have to stay well. But, I think we're going to have to live with it. I did a Google search on when did the Spanish flu leave us, the one in 1918. And up comes never. Oh gosh. And it said the seasonal flu shot that we get every year is the Spanish flu shot.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either. Anyone can Google it. And, but back then people wanted the vaccine desperately, and there wasn't the politicizing of it. So, still, we all have to try to help each other. It's not just to make yourself healthy, but not to be a carrier. I think the rapid test that people can bring home will be a good idea because you don't really know if someone, at my husband's funeral, I had 12 people for lunch. It was a small funeral. And my two best friends, from a while back, were next to me, and they were anti-vaxxers. See, and I wouldn't have known that. So it's good to just have everybody do a test before they come. They're going to make it easy to get the rapid test, and then you find out if you're a carrier. So, and this thing keeps changing. But here's the bottom line. I didn't want to write the year ahead for 2021. because I knew it was going to be a rerun of 2020. Those 2 years are like twins. They're very similar. And I don't know about you, but I was shuddered within. Well, being a writer, I'm usually home writing. But what surprised me about 21, when I was preparing my calendar, and I do a calendar once a year and that gets me into the pores. This is what it looks like on my website. But I said to myself, where are those beautiful little days, those the little glittering days that give us hope and energy and a boost up? There weren't any. There was one challenge after another. And I said to my assistant, Courtney, Courtney, are you seeing what I'm seeing? Because she studies astrology. She's a student of it and quite serious. She said, I know. I said, oh gosh, this is a year where we get challenged. Well, challenges make us stronger. But this year coming, it's back to those gorgeous days. The best 2 months of the year are February and March. I love them. And March has the luckiest day of the year, March 5th, which Jupiter meets the sun in Pisces for the first time in 12 years. And I'm very excited about the arts, whether it's painting or music or culinary arts or fashion or literature. On April 12th, Jupiter will meet with Neptune for the first time in 13 years. But they're meeting in the sign of Pisces, which rules the arts. And Jupiter used to rule Pisces in ancient days before Neptune was found and discovered. And the community, the astrological community, made Neptune the ruler of Pisces. So here you have the two rulers of Pisces meeting in Pisces. This is powerful because I believe it will trigger an outpouring of the arts. You know, this is the only thing all of us have gone through together worldwide. So when you see a movie or a play or anything really, you will resonate with it because you'll say, oh, I went through that. Oh, I felt like that. Or maybe you didn't feel like that, but you look at the differences of how people responded to it. And, you know, just like the Spanish flu had an outpouring of the flapper era, the roaring 20s, the beautiful clothes and the jazz music and the Art Deco architecture, and that rippled into the jewelry and the fashion. You know, women didn't wear as short outfit as the roaring 20s. They just think of pictures of your great grandmother in 1918. It was to the floor. It was very different.
Right. So
I believe that meeting of Jupiter and Neptune will open the portal. And by the end of 2020, you will really see a template of what our generation is going through. But it'll be beautiful because Pisces is poetic and lyrical and soft. And I think we're all going to love it.
Cool.
But there are other things too. Well, there's one thing that everybody in California always wants to know, but also in New York. Venus is going to have her beauty sleep. She goes retrograde from December 19th. So she's already there in her boudoir. And she's going to stay retrograde asleep until January 29th. When Venus retrogrades, you can't have Botox, you can't have fillers. You don't want to do anything to your face. You don't want to go from brunette to platinum blonde. You don't want to have veneers or go to your cosmetic dentist. You don't want to make radical changes.
Okay.
You can have trims. I mean, we don't want everybody running around like a little ragamuffins, but you can have little trims or little touch-ups with color, but dramatic changes because you might not like it. It's also not a time to give a big party. And so it's better to, like, for example, my daughter's pregnant and her
Mhm.
friends want to give her a party. And I said, not January. And she's due in the beginning of March. So they're doing it February 5th after Venus goes out of retrograde. Also in January, we're going to have Mercury retrograde, where
Ugh.
everything goes a little haywire, electronics, and, not a time to sign contracts. And that is January 14th until February 4th. So that's why they made the party on the 5th. and I agree. Well, I was the one who said you can't do it in January. And if you're doing a charity, the donations wouldn't be as big in January. So, you want to raise money for your
Right.
charity, do it in February.
Right,
February is
right.
a really good month. And Valentine's Day is spectacular this year. Yes, finally. And even if you're saying, well, I don't have anybody to have dinner with on Valentine's Day, well, go out with a friend.
Mhm.
Nothing's going to happen if you stay home. But if you go out now, this year, Valentine's Day falls on a Monday, but you start to feel the glowing energy on Saturday and Sunday. So I say, go out with your friend on Saturday night, have a dinner. You just never know when you're out and about. It may be you talk to the people in the next table, just things happen when you're out.
Mhm.
But I'm saying, give it a try and be optimistic, because this is a good year. Now, the celestial favorite in 2022 is Pisces. However, they will share that crown with Aries, because Jupiter will go into Aries on May 10th to stay until October 30th. This means everybody gets chocolates.
Nice.
Because I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
When Jupiter is in Pisces, it helps Pisces, Cancer, and Scorpio, but also Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn, because water and earth make flowers. But the other signs get locked out. But when Jupiter goes into Aries, then you have Aries, Leo, Sag, and then you have Gemini, Libra, Aquarius. I'm sorry, I'm getting over a cold.
That's okay. I understand.
So does
Well-
it sound good to you?
Yeah, I mean, 2022 sounds like a really good year. After all,
Lots
we've
of
been through.
progress.
What I find interesting though is that everybody is so starved to be out and about. And I've been attending events here locally for the holidays, and I mean it's packed. Everywhere you go is packed.
Really?
Yeah, and
Oh,
one of
I
my
haven't
favorite
gone to-
terms, and my friends laugh at me, but my favorite term is I'll walk into a restaurant and go, "Oh my God, it's a petri dish."
Well, I've been going out to eat, but usually the restaurants here in New York have the tables they've taken tables out, and there's lots of space. Up until now, I've been eating in those little huts they built all along New York City streets, but I haven't gone to the movies and I haven't gone to a concert, not yet.
Yeah, I haven't done the. No, I think I did one movie a few months ago.
Oh, you did? You went to the movie? I missed
Yeah,
the movie
but there was
so
like
much.
no one there hardly, so it was okay.
Oh, that's good. Oh, okay.
But I haven't done a concert yet. I'm just not ready for. I don't want to sound like one of those weird, one of those people, but I'm just not ready for but shoulder to shoulder crowds.
I'm not either. My daughter's coming home for Christmas and she's the pregnant one and she'll be 7 months pregnant. But she said, Mommy, I'm going to wear an N95 and I'll wrap myself in bubble wrap. Don't worry.
Bubble wrap.
She's so funny. And, I said, okay. And, get to the airport early. And what we all have TSA pre-check so that you're not on those lines. It's the airport that's the problem, not the airline,
right?
Not the plane,
right?
Yeah. So I definitely think you should get pre-check. It's worth it.
Okay, that's cool. I remember that.
Anyone
Pre-check.
listening, because you go through so quickly, you know.
There's people out there that will read their horoscopes every day and they follow them religiously. I mean, is that what they're there for? Is to follow them religiously, or is it up to the opinion?
It's up to the person. I feel I'm creating a weather map. Some people never listen to the news. Some people never listen to the weather. I think it's good to know if it's going to rain, you can bring an umbrella. I'm showing you a map, and I don't have as much time to read personal charts as I did years ago.
Right.
But I still do them. And sure as mud, every time I do one, the very part of the chart that has the most tension is the one they're asking about. Like, my landlord just sold the building. I have to move. I'm in a panic. And that's the part of the chart that is not well aspected.
Right.
But my mother would have said, shows the condition. You wouldn't be feeling tense if you didn't have that.
Right.
And I can find the times when you're most likely to find that beautiful apartment in the neighborhood you want, and it may take a little bit longer. I would say to that person, you have to start earlier than you would normally do, and really get a feel for the market and how much everything costs, and talk to a broker and find out, what the emerging neighborhoods are, because astrology is so helpful. I can give you the dates that things will break through. I can also give you the dates to sign. And I do that right on my website, because I don't want you signing at a bad time,
Right.
because then you're building those bad aspects into the cake batter, and you live with it for the term of that contract. So you want to have a good day.
Here's a question. I talked to one astrologer about a year ago who had an opinion that Mercury retrograde wasn't that bad.
Well, it depends.
Okay.
If you're giving birth to a baby and Mercury's retrograde, don't worry about it.
Sure.
I mean, it actually makes the child more philosophical and more reflective, because Mercury is asking the child to look back, that person to keep, kind of thinking about things. So it's actually a good thing. Mercury retrograde is really for business things. Mercury goes retrograde every 3 months or so. Every time Mercury moves 27.5 degrees away from the sun, it's almost like a vaudeville act. The hook comes and says, where are you going? You see, little Mercury wasn't living on Mount Olympus. He was living in a cave with his mother, because his mother had an affair with Zeus. And he was the outcome of that affair, and she was kind of had to keep him quiet. But little Mercury's very clever and did not want to live in it. We're living in a hovel, Mama. I mean, all my brothers and sisters are on Mount Olympus in beautiful mansions, and I'm in this horrible cave. And he wasn't going to have any of that. And so he stole the cattle of Apollo. He even had the cattle walk backwards so that it would confuse people about where the cattle was when he was stealing it.
Wow.
A farmer had seen him do this, and he said to the farmer, here's money. This child was very precocious.
Sure.
You didn't see anything. But the next day when he went back, one of the cattle he offered up to the gods as food, which was considered very sophisticated in those days. And the same farmer was there, and he shapeshift and said, did you see anybody steal Apollo's cattle? And he said, oh yeah, it was this child, and they went that way. And he's like, oh brother, I paid this guy off. And he had Apollo's noticing his cattle is gone, and goes to the cave. It finally eventually leads him to the cave. He figures it out. And when he goes into the cave lights with brilliant light. And, Mercury knows he's coming. So he makes believe he's sleeping. His mother is horrified. What's going on here? And Apollo goes to the bassinet and says, listen, I know you're awake and I know you stole my cattle. So little Mercury sits up in his bassinet and starts arguing with Apollo. And Apollo doesn't know what to do with this baby. So he picks him up and says to his mother, I'm going to bring him to Zeus. I have no idea what to do with this child. And he's this little person, in his first year of birth. So he brings him to Zeus, and he looks like Zeus. And Zeus can't really disavow him. And when he's talking to Mercury, this child is so smart. So he thinks, all right, he's right. He shouldn't live in a cave. He said, here's what we're going to do. All your brothers and sisters, all the other planets have certain territory, like Neptune rules the sea on Earth, and Pluto rules the underworld. And they have different places where they can go and different places when they can't go. But for you, I'll let you go to heaven and Earth and Hades. You can go anywhere you want. And that's how he became the travel planet. But the deal is you must sit right next to me as my agent. And you are so articulate that you will speak for me. And that's how Gemini and Virgo got, they are ruled by Mercury. So brilliant in communication. Both signs are really talented with communication. So little Mercury agrees to this. This is great. Everything is working out. But he said, Mercury, if you start wandering around, I'm going to pull you back. And that's the story of Mercury retrograde. Every 30 weeks, he has to come back. But it's a very good time to go over things that you've done. The universe wants us to be reflective. We all want to hear new. Let's go into new territory and get new clients and this and that. No, not necessarily. It's good to go back to people who have supported you and thank them. Or, there's many things we have to do. Like after a big project, it's good to go back and do a wrap up. What worked, what didn't. Mercury retrograde helps us do that. And so I still maintain that it's best not to do big things with Mercury retrograde, but I will tell you a secret that will horrify you. The United States Constitution on July 4th, 1776 was signed with Mercury retrograde.
Yikes.
And that's why we're embroidering and rediscovering and rethinking the laws we've set in place. The reason we're so polarized right now, okay, you want more news?
Go for it.
Pluto takes 248 years to go around the sun. We all learn this in school.
Sure.
The United States is about 246 years old. I have to get a calculator. Okay, it's coming back. Pluto is coming back to where it was when we broke away from England and started our own democracy. And I think every once in a while in our lives, the universe asks us, how much do you love your job? What are you willing to do to fight for it? How much do you love your marriage? How much do you love your children? How much do you love your country? There are different crises that come up in our lives where we have to fight to keep it, if it means a lot to us, and to rethink it and to reevaluate it and to make it better. And we're in one of those times when we're in a tremendous reckoning and reevaluation, and also a time to be more fair to each other. It's a process and it's difficult. The universe asks a lot from us. Life is not easy, but it makes us better people having gone through it. And in astrology, you can't skip any steps. So you have to keep going forward.
That was my next question is, when somebody contacts you for a reading, what type of reading do they get, or does it depend on what they're asking?
No, they get 2 hours from me.
Wow.
You know, I find that people don't ask you their main question until you're, maybe it's an hour and a half and you're closing the computer and you're, maybe summarizing. I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I was sitting in the Pierre Hotel with a lovely lady from Italy. She was American, but she had, her family had come when she was little.
Mhm.
And she said, I want to know about love. And I said, oh, okay, that's one of my favorite subjects. And I said, this and this is coming up and you have a really good chance to meet people. She was a pattern maker for a top designer, an Italian designer. I mean, the clothes that you would die to have. So she had a very secure job and they adored her. And she'd been with them for like 17 years or something. She felt very secure.
Mhm.
She said, well, now the truth is starting to trickle out. I have my eye on this one fellow. I mean, he's the one. I said, well, actually, where did you meet him? She said, in church. After Mass, they had coffee and pastries downstairs and we met and now we went out for a while and he really is the one. I said, but you broke up? He said, well, she said he didn't want to continue it. And do you think there's a chance? And I said, no, I think we have to move beyond this one.
Hmm.
And we're talking about love a lot and this person, and I'm trying to open her to other possibilities, to someone who would adore her. You need to go out with someone who wants to go out with you.
Right.
You are the prize. Some girls have it backwards. The girl is the prize.
Right.
So I'm closing the computer and she said, I want his baby. I said, what do you mean? She said, well, I want his sperm. I said, whoa. And I told him, I said, you didn't. She did. She said, you don't have to support the child. I just want your sperm. I said, you actually told him that? Yes. I said, but it's not going to work out. What was his answer? No. And he doesn't care that I wouldn't ask for any child support. I said, well, you met him in church. He's a good person.
Mm-hmm.
He's an ethical person. You met him in church. That's a sign.
Yeah.
And she was very disappointed. But I said, there's so many other possibilities. Life can be hard, but it also can be surprising and wonderful. I met my husband on an elevator. We were married 17 years, had 2 children. And then he never worked. That's the problem. He was always unemployed and it was a great burden on me. So, but we still stayed friends and he saw the kids as much as he wanted. And neither one of us married again. So it was good. So I just think, you have to accept when something's over. I felt bad. To this day, I think about her because that was several years ago. She didn't want to go through life without children. Now women have that option. By the way, anyone listening, freeze your eggs. If you're a girl in your 20s or 30s, freeze your eggs because it gives you more time to find the love of your life. And one friend said to me just this week, oh, I'm afraid to do that. It's painful. Both my daughters had done it. So I said, Diana, is it painful? She said, no, not at all. They put you to sleep. And when you wake up, they don't want you to drive your car. They want you to have a friend pick you up. So then I asked my other daughter, was it painful? She said, no, not at all. Chrissy had problems keeping the egg. Her body kept expelling the fertilized egg with her husband. So they did in vitro. And on the first try, she had little Otis, little boy, who's now going to be 6. And my other daughter didn't want to go through life without a child. So she's doing in vitro and she is pregnant and she's the one coming home for Christmas. Right. So women have options that they never had before.
Mhm.
And having children was always number one for me. And I had an internal bleeding problem and doctors were screaming at me. I took quite a risk, but I did have my two, but they said, you are not to have any more children. So I was careful after that. But they said, before we thought you would die during pregnancy, but now we know you could die later, that it would be too much strain on you and you would die 5 months after you gave birth. And when people talk to you that way, you're like, okay,
Right.
2 is it. That's it. I always wanted 3, but no. Anyway, in New York, it's so expensive to have children anyway. I put them through the private school system and college and paid their student loans.
Wow.
All with astrology, learning when to go after new work, when not to. I was an agent for commercial photographers before Time Incorporated asked me to write a column for their website in 1995. And they wanted something short for women, but I knew my chart was really good for success in the digital realm. And I said, no, it shouldn't be short. It should be long. I said, we should be big. We are Time Warner. And they were like, well, what do you mean? And I got them. I talked them into letting me write long copy, friendly copy, very warm copy, and then to have a summary on the bottom, because I was afraid people would forget what I said. And I have 13 million unique readers. I mean, I was right that people wanted this, and the internet made it possible. You can't have long manuscripts in print. It just costs too much unless you're doing a book.
Right.
And I've written 12 books, but you have the space on the internet,
Absolutely.
It's great. I love the internet. I love everything that's happening. I love driverless cars because I don't know how to drive. Waiting for that to get perfected.
When you look at things from like the late 60s into the 70s and the boom of the technology, it's incredible. It's like you say,
Moore's Law. They
love
say
it.
every
Yeah,
18 months.
it's just absolutely incredible. I remember when my mother worked at AT&T here locally, and I remember the first computer. They used to take us tours of the computer, and it was like 3 rooms worth of computer.
That's true.
Crazy.
Remember the first cell phone? It was bigger than a bread box.
Yeah, I mean, everything.
They were heavy and big, and a few people you knew had them. They were executives in big companies,
Yeah, or they looked like regular phones in the car. When you got in the car, it was like a regular phone, So things have advanced so much, and it's incredible. And they're still advancing. They're still coming up with
Well,
something.
I love the space shots we're doing. I'm fascinated with them, and I always watch them, and I always read the science section of the New York Times every Tuesday, and it's just fascinating. Well, something is happening that I think you would find fascinating.
Sure.
On December 20th, 21, Jupiter and Saturn met, and they were so close to Earth that in LA and on the West Coast, people could see them. They could even see the rings. How do I know? Because they were sending me pictures on their cell phones. In New York, it was cloud cover, so we couldn't see it. But it didn't matter if you could see it or not. It was happening. Every 20 years, Jupiter and Saturn have dinner.
Nice.
And what they discuss and the part of the constellation and sky that they meet matters. Now, for 200 years, going back 200 years, every time Jupiter and Saturn met, it was in an Earth sign, Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. They met always in those signs. They never changed the order. It was always Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. Now, there was one exception, which I'll come back to in 1980, but it colors the background music of society that we live in. And we're really lucky, and I'll show you why. In in those 200 years, what did we do? We built cathedrals, we built skyscrapers, roads, bridges, tunnels. You know, I think of America and how wild it was
Right.
200 years ago.
Yeah.
There was a swamp on 42nd Street and it became Times Square, you know, and there was a reservoir where the library is. That was the water supply. And then when they didn't need it anymore, they built a library. So it was also a time when you wanted a new dress, you'd have to buy fabric. You couldn't buy it off the rack. It's hard to imagine this. There were no supermarkets. If you wanted cereal, you'd go to the country store and they would scoop it out and put it in a little bag for you. And that period was the birth of the Industrial Revolution, the assembly line, of consumerism, of buying cereal in a supermarket, and everything we have today. Well, now it changes. They just met in Aquarius. It's ringing the bell. It is now going to be Aquarius, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, Gemini, Libra. You know, it's going to be air signs. Air signs are very different from earth signs. With earth signs, it's what you own that matters. And I think in the 50s, they used to talk about keeping up with the Joneses. You don't hear of that anymore, thank goodness. But sometimes on Instagram, people are saying, here's my purse, here's my, you know. It's not going to be what you own. It's what you know, what you've experienced, and what you contribute. Air is communicative. Now, when there's a big change like this, the universe gives you little hints. Saturn went into Aquarius on March 20th, 2020, and that's the day New York City locked down. And I think California must have within a day or two, maybe earlier than us. Yeah. And it stayed in Aquarius only for a few months until the end of July. And you know, it was just a small period. And what were we doing? Suddenly, what we wore, what we ate, how we did our work, and the tools we used changed instantly. Even how we went to the doctor, we did it through teleconference.
Right.
We were all on Zoom. We had never heard about Zoom, or at least I hadn't until the pandemic. And we weren't wearing the same clothes. We were wearing more relaxed clothes at home.
Right.
We were also eating better because we weren't doing as much takeout. We were cooking. And I became a really serious home cook during that period. I got really good. And although I do run my dishwasher 3 times a day now, which is insane, but we were home. And this is going to keep up. I know our leaders say, oh, you have to go back to work. You have to go back downtown. That's not going to happen according to astrology. We will be working home. I think it's been great for women. Yeah. Because they could be near their children. And you still need a babysitter, you know, but at least you can keep an eye on things. Sure. Children loved it. Mommy and daddy were home all the time, you know, and they felt very secure. This whole generation that was little during the pandemic. I don't know what they're going to call this generation, but maybe post-pandemic. I don't know. But they'll grow up extremely secure because they were around their parents and families so much. And the children learned remote learning. And now look, remote learning is tough. And I still believe in real life learning. I think it's better. But some kids really took to it, and it's good to have these skills. And so we are walking over a rickety bridge to a new life, and it will intensify as we go along. I love the Aquarian age because it's coming fast now. Oh, yes, there'll be flying taxis, and I live on the 29th floor of my high rise, you know, that's terrifying to me. But all these buildings are so close outside my window. But we will have the driverless trucks. We will have a space station, commercial space station on Earth. I love that they're trying to hit a meteor
Yeah.
in space, you know, to try to save the Earth, so that, like, the dinosaurs had a terrible time with that.
Right.
They'll also be able to get into your cells and take out things that people inherit at birth. And people suffer a lot. And we're going to, scientists will definitely be able to, you know, pull those bad genes out. Aquarius likes to work in teams. And I was listening to the CEO of Pfizer, and he said something that was so Aquarian. He said, look what can be achieved brilliantly when no one cares who gets the credit. That's so Aquarius. And you'll see in politics, when you have Earth, and especially Capricorn,
Sure.
the president or king tells you what's going to happen, what you're going to do. But Aquarius is grassroots, up from the people. I think the Black Lives Matter and the George Floyd killing was very Aquarian, because people said, we need to change this. We will not tolerate this anymore. And because it coincided with an eclipse in June, on the day of his burial, when there's an eclipse, it means pay attention to this. This is important. This is not going to go away. This will intensify this thought, this feeling, this action. So it's, you know, some people say, oh, people demonstrate and then it just, nothing happens. It goes back to the way it was. No, not when there's an eclipse. No, there will be social change. I think we're in a period of such fast social change that it scares some people.
Right.
And they want to go back to, you know, simpler times, you know, that, you know, and they're almost want to eat mother's food from when they were little. You know, there's needing comfort because it's all happening too fast. Other people are able to accept it more easily. It's just, we're all different.
Right.
And it takes some people more time to deal with it. Now, remember I said that there was that little aberration in 1980. Jupiter and Saturn met in Libra that year. And I'm like, why does the universe give us these little previews? What's the point? And I thought, 1980, wait a minute, those people are 40 years old by 2020.
Sure.
They have good jobs by now. They've made decisions. Some have children, some are married. They're grown up and they know who they are. They have this new Jupiter, Saturn in their DNA. They will rise to leadership. Those born from 1975 to 1985 will take our hand and walk us across the rickety bridge to the new way of living, because they understand it intuitively. They have it in them. They were born during one of those aberrations. And that's what philosophically I've come to, that conclusion. So if you're listening and you're born in those years, we're depending on you. and you will come across you and you will do well.
Step it up, guys. Yeah.
So I love astrology because you're looking at cycles within cycles within cycles. People think there's just one cycle. No, it's like little Russian dolls, you know, inside each other. Those little toys with the little dolls inside little dolls inside little dolls.
Well, you can look back on history with all that too. I mean, history repeats itself, but every time it repeats itself, there's an improvement upon what happened, you know?
Yeah.
And that's like you say, that's what's going on right now. And it's really exciting to watch because it's happening right in front of us.
Everything is happening. And sometimes you can't grasp the importance of it at the moment
Hmm.
until you move away from it a little bit and a
Right.
little bit more time goes by. Yeah, I mean, this is tumultuous in the way that the 60s were.
Hmm.
And the 60s were our last big period of big change,
Hmm.
and we'll see what this brings. But this pandemic, I write for magazines overseas, and I
Sure.
would talk to my editor in Brazil or my editors in Amica in Italy, in Milan. And they were saying the same thing. We're making the magazine out of our home. I would talk to Miyoko in Tokyo.
Hmm.
We're putting together Vogue Japan in our apartments. I would talk to my daughter in LA, Diana, who works for James Corden, and they had to put a show on the air every night for a year and a half. She's the music producer.
Hmm.
And she said, well, budgets went out the window, and we had to teach the talent how to film themselves and then send the files to us. And we would pray that they would be good files.
Hmm.
You didn't know in the beginning what you were going to get. And she said, you just learn by fire. You learn so fast
Hmm.
because the network is depending on you. She's won 6 Emmys, and she's so young for her music producer work. So, the universe sometimes throws you a challenge and then sits back and says, how are you going to do?
Right.
What are you going to do with that? How are you going to
Absolutely.
step up? But by stepping up and doing something new, you grow. You cannot grow in a comfort state. You have to get a little bit out of it.
Hmm.
When I would do the calendars every year.
Right.
And I had a publisher who would work with me. And one day he said, I'm retiring now, so you can't do the calendar anymore. I'm like, yes, I can. I can pick the paper. I can do this. I can get bids from printers all over the country. And I did, but there were days I'm like, oh my God, am I over my head? But then my editor-in-chief, who's on staff, said, I'll help you out. I said, I'm having so much trouble. I'm good at that.
Right.
Thank you. And and then we realized we do need to depend on others. We're all interconnected,
Hmm.
and no one should feel they have to do everything themselves. I think you and I both deal with health situations, and you learn quickly that you must trust other people
Hmm.
to help you, and that it's not a weakness. And I bet you, like me, are willing to help anyone. I have this theory that if somebody asks for help from me, I must not say no, because it must have
Right.
been hard for them to ask to begin with.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Right.
I have to find a solution. And if I don't know the solution, I bet I know people who know the solution. And it's easy to help other people in the course of your day. You're busy, you're doing stuff, but yet you can take that minute to help them. You can find a solution. I want people to feel inspired to do that, because we all need each other. We definitely do. Can't
Absolutely.
do everything alone. No man is an island, like they say.
So, on your readings now, do you read from their birth date, or how do you do that?
Yeah, no, well, when you're meeting with a person, hopefully they know their time of birth and the city, of course,
Hmm.
and month, day, and year.
Hmm.
Because you have to use longitude and latitude. Because somebody born in LA versus New York at 12 noon, the chart is different because of the latitude. And, because in LA at 12 noon, it's 3 o'clock in New York.
Right.
So no, you need to convert. But now we have computers to do that.
Sure.
When I was learning at 14, you had to do the math. You had to do the logarithms. Yeah.
I remember.
But yeah, and then I talk to people. I can go backwards or forwards in time.
Cool.
I can say, yeah, because math lets you do that. I can say, what happened when you were 5? Did your family move, or oh, that's when my father left my mother? Okay, so I can see that there was something, and has that made you more worried about getting married yourself? And sometimes someone will come to me and say, I can't seem to have a relationship. It just, I don't know what's the matter with men. They just leave. I said, well, sometimes we're causing it. When I would go to conventions, astrology conventions, I didn't come up through the clubs. I came up through my mother. So people wouldn't talk to me. They wouldn't be my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, they don't like me. What's wrong? I would like to make friends at these things. And then I realized maybe I'm the problem. So I brought a pack of calendars. I talked to the concierge. I had envelopes. I said, here's a tip. Can you deliver these to these rooms? Oh, sure. I'd be happy to. I'll do it today. And then everybody, hey, Susan, let's have breakfast. Let's have dinner. Sometimes it's our fault and it's unconscious. So it's hard to say that to a person, but it took me a while to realize it was my fault. People assumed I didn't want to be their friend, but then nothing could be further from the truth.
Right.
So I think sometimes we have to just entertain that possibility for a minute and see if it fits. And if it might change your behavior a little, and it could crack the ice. Could.
That's
I've
really
seen it.
cool.
Yeah.
Boy, this hour blew by. This was great. Oh my, it was really,
You're my
really
new friend. I love talking to you.
It was really great. I like talking to you too. I really do. In fact, after we get off here, hang out for a few minutes and we'll say our goodbyes behind, in the green room. But I want to thank you for coming on.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm thrilled. You have a very loyal following, and I can see why.
I would love to get you on again in the future, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But I want to thank you, and I know Christmas is. I know you're busy. Everybody's busy this time of year, and I appreciate.
I love Christmas though.
I do
it gets
too.
Us
you know
out
what?
of ourselves,
I'm one of those people people hate because I'm a Halloween person, but the day after Halloween, Christmas goes up.
Yeah, it does. Well, you know why? Because women need more time. See, it was Abraham Lincoln who put Thanksgiving so close to Christmas. We have him to blame. I would have made it early November, and we have a Macy's Day Parade here. It was always freezing. If we're a little earlier, I'm going to try to start a groundswell, a letter writing campaign to move Thanksgiving earlier in November, like the first Thursday.
There we go.
We need more time.
Yeah.
It's too fast.
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm feeling now. I mean, I started the day after Halloween, but now with all this coming up as close as it is, it's like, wow, it's going to be over.
Well, I'm feeling the supply chain problem.
That too.
Yeah, because I went into Apple and I said, I need a new desktop I keep all my financials on a desktop. I need another laptop. I have 5, but I buy one every once in a while for my new assistant. And I needed Apple TV hardware, and I needed a little iPad. And I said, well, if you have the 13, because I have apps, I'd like to have a new phone. And they didn't have one thing.
Yeah, it's hard. It's really hard right now.
And I can't reprint my calendar. Once it's gone, it's gone. It's on the homepage of my website, by the way.
Yeah.
You'll see it right away when you go to astrologyzone.com. But if you forget the name of my website, susanmiller.com will lead you right in. It'll redirect.
Cool.
But my printer can't get any more of the special paper that I use. So I can't reprint. So we have some now.
Yeah.
So I urge everyone to get it because it has on the calendar what the aspect is, but what it means in English. And I tried to write it in a snappy, upbeat way that's clear, and you can make your plans that way. But I also have a calendar on my app, So and most people want it at home and with them. So I have it under key dates.
That's
And
really
you can
cool. I
pick
like
the
it.
best
No, it's
date.
great. Yeah, I loved it. I loved reading through it. It was great. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on, and hang back in the green room, and we'll chat a little bit afterwards. But I'm
Okay.
gonna close this thing down, and I'm going to
Thank
tell
you.
the
This was
folks about
fun.
tomorrow's special. Okay,
And happy holidays.
you too. All right, let's see where we're at. Oh, there we go. I gotta get used to
Sorry
doing that.
about the coughing. Will you be able to cut that out?
Yeah, that's no problem. We can fix that.
I'm just coming out of a cold, and when I talk too long, my voice gets really dry.
Absolutely, I understand. Okay, guys, that was Susan Miller. That was fantastic talking astrology with her. And I just want to give you guys a quick update. Tomorrow night, I know it's Christmas Eve and everybody's doing stuff, but I had the brilliant idea to do a read, because, I'm reading every Sunday some kind of Christmas story. So I decided that tomorrow night I want to do a read of the Dear Virginia Letter. And possibly we're looking at The Night Before Christmas. But I also, years ago when I was a kid, there was this poem that's it's written by somebody that's anonymous, and it's called Legend of the Christmas Cat. But it's not the one you think it is about the tabby cat. This is a totally different legend about the cats. And it impressed me so much as a kid. I've always had it. And for about 10 years, I couldn't find it, and I finally found it again. So I'm going to be reading that tomorrow night. Also on Sunday, I will be back, and we're going to, be reading Mrs. Miracle. And then Monday, Jared Murphy, our old friend, is going to be on. He just did a documentary for his Not Aliens book. So he's going to be on with us Monday talking about that. So I want to thank you guys for, to come in and see that. And I want to thank you guys for coming on. Now, here's where I get to beg. All this comes out of my pocket. Because we're a nonprofit. So, the equipment, the mics, the whole ball game, my paranormal equipment for my team, all that comes out of my pocket. So if you could find it in your hearts to donate a little bit to us, that would be really great. Because like I said, I want to keep good guests like Susan and others coming in here. And you can do that at paypal.me/California Haunts. Also, we need more subscribers at YouTube. We really got to get those subscribers. So tell 5 of your friends about this show if you liked it. If you didn't like the show, tell 5 anyway, because we're equal opportunity here. But the more subscribers we have, the better things are. And if you have trouble finding us, you can just go straight to the website at www.californiahauntsradio.com and click on the video that's on the front there, and you can go right to the YouTube site. All of our archives are there for the last year and a half. Plus all our archives are there on the website. So I really appreciate you guys coming to see us. And like I said, I know it's the holidays, you're busy cooking, family's coming in, but I want to let you know that we're thinking of everybody on Christmas. And have a good day. And I will see you guys tomorrow for the reading. Have a good one.